Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. You're looking at a Craftsman YTS 3000 tractor that I picked up free on the side of the road. Turns out it had thrown a rod. So if you guys remember, I put that $40 engine into it. We got it running and I've used it for most of the season. It is now the middle of July and the thing is a pest to start. And it also was scalping the lawn. First, the lawn scalping. First, for the lawn scalping, you can see I put a pretty good hook on the blade. Must have hit something pretty hard to do that. Looks like it was an aftermarket blade also. They have a tendency to be soft. So I borrowed a blade from the stack. These are OEMs. So the scalping is fixed. Next problem is this thing is an intermittent starter, and by that I mean you hop on it, you know, kick in the clutch, the blades are disengaged. I have it in neutral. Obviously I'm sitting on the seat, and sometimes you turn the key and it works, and sometimes it doesn't seem to matter if you mess with the up and down for the blades, the engagement for the blades. Doesn't matter how hard you push that in, you know, whether you thwack the neutral lever, the starter just won't engage. Then another time you'll walk up to it and sit down and hit the button and the starter does engage. So obviously this thing is old enough to have some trouble with those switches. I was kind of getting around it. I was using the jump pack directly on the starter. The problem with that is, you know, I put it off to the side, then I went by and ran over the lead on the jump pack and took out the oversized alligator clip. So anyway, I want to get to the point where I could just walk up to this thing, start it, cut the grass. When I'm done, cover it and be done with it. I don't want it to be part of the magical mystery tour every time I need this thing. I'm getting tired of fixing things before I could use them. Here we have the starting solenoid. Obviously, you need power. You need the lead that goes off to the starter. And when you have ground on one of these and power on the other, it pulls a disc up, a copper disc, it shorts these together, your starter goes around. So I checked this wire out and I looked for ground or power on it while turning the key and doing all the proper things and did not get either. Then I checked the other wire, once again sitting on the seat, turned it and messed with it and all that. And occasionally it showed power, occasionally it didn't, and you know, I'm not quite sure if the seat switch is a little shaky. So I have a feeling I have a problem with all the switches on this thing. Now one could just kind of play dangerous with this, and by that you hardwire one side directly to ground, and then the other one you put a little push button on here perhaps, and that'll make it so you could engage the starter. Problem with doing that, anytime you push the button, even if you're cutting grass, you'll engage the starter. So I think I have a better way of doing that. Let's say we put two buttons in. One hooks up the ground side, the other side powers it up. That way you got to take a moment to think about it as you're reaching for the two buttons, right? You're saying to yourself, I have to hit two buttons. By the way, am I in neutral? Are the blades disengaged? Have I stepped on the clutch? And am I sitting in the seat, right? You could ask yourself that question, but all those interlocks will be bypassed. So to some extent, we'll call this a test hack. Because one should not recommend bypassing safeties on anything. That's how you get into trouble. Here's what I came up with, right? You gotta, if you push one or the other, nothing, but if you push them both, Which brings us to the next thing. This thing, sometimes the battery holds a charge, sometimes it doesn't. I picked up one of these Walmart never starts. A friend of mine says they're made at Johnson Controls. It seems if you keep them charged, you'll get a couple of years out of them. It seems like if you don't, you're lucky to get the 12 months, which is what the warranty is. Anyway, let's drop that in and see if that brings life back to this rig. So, batteries installed. I always take the negative off first, just in case you touch metal. Once the negative is off, positive. And once again, put the positive on first, and then the negative. So that's the first thing. Second thing, this battery's from 21. I'm going to put it on a pulse charger. It's also the better one, 425 cold cranking amps. So it might just come back. And lastly, you know, the key switch doesn't have to be on or anything else. I mean, it'll turn. So make sure, once again, when you go to start it, turn the key switch on. Make sure all the interlocks are satisfied mentally before you get going. Let's call this a for testing purposes. One last hack for these older Briggs & Strattons. I find that you got to put a gas valve in that you want to turn off when you're not using it. If not, your carburetor floods and it empties all the gas into your engine, fills the crankcase with gas, makes quite the mess. So, clutch in, push the two buttons. Oh, turn the key on, push the two buttons, flood it out because you left the choke on.